Do you think this hurts his chances now that he's been convicted?
With the crowd of people that I saw, there's a lot of people that like this guy. He's a good person. I don't believe that he should be charged for it, and I really don't think it's going to matter.
It's all convicted felons, convicted felons, convicted felons everywhere. And the former president may have received a much higher profile perk than his awful hairstyle.
No major party has ever nominated a convicted felon for president. It's one more thing for voters across the country to consider in November.
The 12 members of the Manhattan jury, the attorneys, and Judge Juan Merchan returned their verdicts on all 34 felonies against the former president on the unforgettable 30th of May 2024.
Donald Trump's donation websites are crashing with the volume. They cannot handle. This is what I'm getting from several different media reports. I'm talking to you, and I am in a studio here right now, so I will caveat this by saying I have not myself tried to access a Donald Trump donation website. However, I have no reason to disbelieve it.
For quite some time, there have been rumors circulating that the former president, who was found guilty, had already won the popular vote. This was supported by the fact that on the same day, he broke records for campaign donations totaling more than $34.8 million.
From former President Trump's home state of Florida.
We're voting for President Trump.
Events like these point to a clear picture of Trump leading in the upcoming U.S. elections in November 2024. But this is to be expected. People tend to become sentimental in response to dramatic events like these.
Michael Daigle is a registered Republican and previously backed the former president, but now he isn't so sure.
An appeal is not going to come until after an election, and we'll just have to see whether that invigorates a Republican base to come out and vote for him.
It's hardly shocking that in the days following the damning verdict, many people have seen the folly of voting for a person who is considered a criminal by the law and is unable to vote for himself.
I think that he should be accountable for what he did, but I don't know about jail, maybe a little bit of time or community service.
It is indisputable that the former president is losing a significant number of supporters in light of tweets like these that are all over the place.
But said I said, you cannot call Chris Christie a fat pig. You cannot do that. Please, sir, if you call him a fat pig once more, I'm going to have you leave the arena.
This is not the first hint that his MAGA and Republican supporters are beginning to lose interest in him. The clip takes us back to his New Jersey campaign rally, where a large number of his supporters were seen dispersing from the camp due to wariness from listening to his incessant and fruitless tirade.
Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen the Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner. Is this poor doctor?
We may recall his hilarious comments about Hannibal Lecter. It's funny to see how highly he regards the cannibal, possibly even more highly than his opponent, the President of the United States, Joseph Biden.
Corrupt guy. He's a corrupt district attorney who's allowed crime in the city to go totally unchecked. They had like 20 district attorneys.
Perhaps even the former president's supporters started leaving the area midway through his speech because there was just too much trash talking. It hasn't been long, so it's likely still vivid in the minds of Republicans who have been exposed to more verbal attack drama than the actual substance of a campaign.
Donald Trump's criminal enterprise is how we got here and why it matters. So to put it simply, there's a key link between this new conviction of Trump, the person, and the legal accountability for Trump's organizations, which have long been found criminal in our legal system. So
many Americans believe that the case against Donald Trump is a farce, and this has contributed to the fact that a large portion of the population still supports him. However, as a growing number of clips like this surface, many are beginning to realize that Trump is not innocent at all.
Roger Stone, guilty on all counts.
Flynn pled guilty to repeatedly lying to the FBI.
Michael Cohen, guilty
Former Trump campaign advisor Rick Gates pleaded guilty.
Starting from 2017 till date, nearly all of the former president's closest working allies have been put behind bars for various forms of fraud, with all of their offenses having some tenuous connection to Donald Trump. The former president has always been caught in the middle of everything.
Heiselberg, the former CFO of the Trump Organization, just learned his fate after being convicted for lying under oath.
The jury has reached a unanimous decision that Paul Manafort is guilty.
Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, Alan Weiselberg, Michael Cohen, and many others were entwined with the former president's web of dishonesty, fraud, and mismanagement. Is there really a case for the former president with all of this?
Right now in this Ipsos Reuters poll, again, 58% of Americans say they won't vote for Donald Trump if he's convicted of a felony. And I think the most important number there, at least for me, what I'm looking at is 55% of independents say they will not vote for Donald Trump if he's a convicted felon.
The Libertarians are undoubtedly against him, and the Independents have stated that they will not support him should he be found guilty of a felony. President Joe Biden may have the support of a very small number of Democrats who disagree with his policies, but this does not make up for the votes that the Republican Party will lose as a result of the conviction.
What they don't understand is that I am willing to go to jail if that's what it takes for our country to win and become a democracy again.
However, the former president has accepted the court's ruling far more readily than we anticipated. It is yet to be seen how he'll respond on July 11th, 2024.
For the Republican National Convention, and just shortly after the verdict was announced, the Trump campaign wasted no time sending out a fundraising email in which Trump said in all caps, "I am a political prisoner." Let's bring in NBC's Hallie Jackson. Hallie, first and most obvious question here for so many Americans tonight. How likely is it that Trump is physically going to be put in shackles and booked into a prison here?
The question of whether he'll be jailed or not remains unanswered until later, even though Trump's numerous violations of gag orders have made the case much more difficult.
Billboards feature former Trump voters who now say they won't vote for him in the wake of his conviction last week in his New York City criminal trial.
Support from the Republicans and the MAGA community has severely weakened in comparison to the first 2 days following the former president's verdict, which could completely ruin his chances of reclaiming the highest office in November.
But if we don't win, I predicted you'll have a depression the likes of we had in 1929. Because these people are crazy. They're spending money like drunken sailors.
Destroying his opportunity for a second term would mean guaranteeing that the former president served his jail term if he received a jail sentence. And his 34-count felony case conviction would stand since he would have minimal opportunity to have it overturned.
We have to go on offense right now and make sure that voters understand how unique, how historically unique in a desperately dark way it is to have a convicted felon running for president. And
not only are some people not supporting the former president, but they're also acting like he was never their choice and having tantrums at him.
3, go!
A Republican president has not won New York since President Reagan did in 1984.
It brings to mind his campaign rally in South Bronx, New York's Crotona Park, where the president arguably had the fewest people turn out, forcing the Republican campaign to fabricate the attendance figures.
I'm happy that they convicted him.
If I could do cartwheels, if he got convicted, I would do cartwheels.
And the swing state of Pennsylvania.
Walk over broken glass to vote for him.
Trump's guilty verdict brought relief and outrage in Allentown.
Compared to a few months ago, the former president's chances of winning the upcoming election are pretty slim. Given the sentence that will be imposed on him in just over a month, this could be the end for the shrewd businessman.
We saw 80% of Trump's supporters say they would continue to support him no matter what, but that's another 20% total that would either reconsider or withdraw their support based on a conviction. That's 1 in 5 Trump voters, which is an enormous number in an election that is expected to be as close as this one.
And what really are Trump's chances of winning this 2024 election, and what sustains the relentless warrior character in the face of his loss loss of support from his already small base of supporters, whose votes weren't even enough to get him a victory in 2020.
A narrow Trump lead if you just ask the straight head-to-head 44-40. But if you add that condition, you ask people, what if he's convicted? You see Trump support dropping by 5 points, Biden's growing by 3 points. A much different race suddenly.
Many Republicans and MAGA supporters could go on and on about how the former president's felony conviction has won them over. But that would simply turn out a stunt. As their eyes open, the truth will become much more apparent. Looking through all of these tweets from former MAGA supporters is not encouraging at all. And we really can't hold them responsible for anything, because it's wrong to intentionally vote a criminal into power, regardless of the circumstances.
We're not going to know. And the bottom line is, in an election this close, everything can matter. This clearly could be a huge development.
If, as Donald Trump has claimed, this is a Biden show trial, then the current president has achieved great success because the Democrats have won big, as the Republican candidate now has his name permanently etched in criminal records while he awaits sentencing.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace.
Of course, Donald Trump would go on several rants, but his downfall is well underway, and the insane MAGA movement he leads isn't making things any better with its peculiar cult-like, the bizarre body painting, the diapers, which do more damage than repair to Trump's reputation, the violent acts exhibited during the campaign trail, and the subsequent use of sexual imagery such as flying penises in court proceedings, all of which do more to demolish the Republican nominee than to strengthen him.
We saw this same thing play out when Donald Trump was indicted last year in 4 criminal cases. A rush of Republican support from his hardcore base rallying around him. These are people who buy into his claim that these prosecutions are politically motivated, and so they're coming out to demonstrate their support for the Republican presidential nominee.
Whatever the case, the former president remains a strong contender in the election. His final position in the polls will be determined by his sentencing on July 11th.
I don't know that the public would stand it. I'm not sure the public would stand for it. With a
tried house arrest or
I think it would be tough for the public to take.
All of this could be for naught if he is successful in having his 34 felony convictions overturned, an issue he's been vocalizing in recent interviews, social media posts, and even his campaign rally in Arizona.
So our program, Republican Voters Against Trump, it hinges on a key theory around permission structures, which is you need credible messengers to speak to these swing voters.
There's no doubt that the ex-president would not be pleased with his ardent supporters' current lack of reliability, nor that some of them are even making fun of him in an attempt to further degrade and shame him.
Fans of Trump often criticize a show like this one, saying the entirety of the material is Orange Man bad. Orange Man, not just bad, Orange Man convicted by a jury of his peers. Orange Man month bad? Yes. Orange Man have bad month.
We could clearly see how his age has truly been hitting him throughout the year. So whether the former president can survive this rather eventful and dramatic year is all that could be on our minds.
The convention happens next month, and your nominee could be sentenced to actual jail time 4 days before everything kicks off in Milwaukee. Have you planned for that at the RNC?
Nevertheless, we all still anticipate a fight from the witty guy, even against his supporters who have turned against him. But in reality, he is the cause of his fall from grace. And the only thing we're doing as a society is acting in accordance with social norms.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
We all know that Donald Trump is very hypocritical and judgmental, so it stands to reason that he would not vote for a convicted felon. Nevertheless, there's plenty of time for changes to be made, and we will be on hand to observe them.
Is Trump actually a cat in real life? Wait a second. When cats drink water, they lower their heads down to the bowl and lap it up, and oh my God! Oh my, he's a cat!
Although there is far more entertainment value to this presidential contest than there is to politics, we still need to take it seriously and cast our ballots for the appropriate candidate. But that doesn't mean we have to relish the drama either. This is the only place and time you'll ever see a widely criticized, naive president of the United States square off against a high school convicted felon. Hurry and tell us what you think about all of this, because that's how we stay entertained, and we enjoy reading your comments.